Hi, our project is called We Need Some More Girls in Here, and we're trying to explore, can we use data to create a more equitable music festival lineup? So the problem is, in 2017, Pitchfork published a Gender Equity in Festivals report, which saw a whopping 74% males across a select portion of festivals. And in 2018, Key Change announced a pledge, and they got 500 festivals to sign up to a 50% parity by 2022. As you can see on the left, that's from Reading and Leeds 2020, and without all the male performers, it's not looking like quite as much of a festival, and that needs to change. Emma Zillman from Kendall Calling says it wasn't for the lack of trying, but once an artist, they were looking at an artist of 400, 500 tickets regionally, it becomes a lot more difficult. So how did we approach this? And we spoke to a talent agent who went through their rationale of how they book festivals. So they look at the goals of the festival, they look at the overall vibe, they look at a budget, social numbers, ticket history, some of the relationships between the booking agents and promoters, and of course, artist availability. We started off by looking at 6 Live Nation festivals, which were Isle of Wight, Wireless, Download, Transmit, Parklife, and Reading and Leeds. And as you can see from the big amount of yellow there, it's not looking much better, and it's still overwhelmingly male. But what if we imagine things differently? Who are the names that we should be keeping an eye out on? Is there a correlation between those booked and those who are performing well across DSPs and socials? And who are the artists that would be getting booked if we were making decisions solely through data? So in order to explore this further, we used Chartmetric, and we looked at the top 100 artists and the top 25 artists on their A&R chart as well. And we looked at a gender split across the top artists performing on Spotify listeners, TikTok follows and TikTok likes, Instagram, Twitter, and bands in town trackers. Our criteria for hitting this was that they must have the available he, him, she, her, or they, them data, and that they will also be solo artists. I'll just pass on to Natalia now.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. So as Anthony mentioned before, we had a look at Chartmetric data, and we spotted like the top 100 artists, and we just go through like some criteria to check if there's any underlying pattern for this artist. And what we've done first is like to create also like a poster, like every festival has a poster. So this is what it would look like if our data was a poster, festival poster. So first of all, we had a look at the streaming in Spotify one, and we identified like there is a majority of male presence or who identify as male anyway. And then a bit less of like percentage of like identifies she, her, and then they, them. Next slide, please. Same with it, like with Instagram and Twitter, and we noticed that like on Instagram, like is slightly more like dominated. You know, higher numbers are like with female artists, and then male, them, and then we have like Twitter followers. And kind of like the situation here is kind of like almost 50-50. And next slide, please. And then we ended up with TikTok. Interesting enough, we noticed that 60% is like populated by artists that had like 60% of followers, and then we have like a tiny bit 30% less, 40% percentage with male dominated one. Next slide, please. And then we had a look at the data and that in town, and we found like that 57.4% is dominated by males, and then like the other like 42.6 by female artists.
All right. I'm going to have to stop you there. I apologize. That is the end of time.
Oh gosh.
So thank you very much for the presentation. We now have 3 minutes for questions, and I will open it up to the judges.
All right. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, Tony, go.
So basically, okay, what are your conclusions?
Hey, thanks for that question. So initially we set out to kind of get something nicely wrapped up in a bow, but I think as soon as we started on this journey, we realized that it wasn't quite as clean cut as that. And I think what we found was that, you know, based on whichever platform we look at, if you've used that solely on data, you know, it's going to be quite varied. And I think the purpose of this ended up being a report basically to be a catalyst for a wider industry discussion. And I think as much as we would have liked to have found, that we have some thoughts around it, but at the moment, because a lot of the data that we had, you know, it was inconclusive for a lot of it. So you know, for groups, for example, it was hard to find the gender information that we needed, again, to kind of to really dig on it. So we've done what we can with the data that we have in front of us, but the next iteration of this would be to team up with some partners that would be able to get us access to much more like touring and live information, because Bands in Town was the only representation of that, and that's not all. That's a little bit imperfect just on the way that it's used and the way that it plays a part in people's campaigns.
Right. We have some time left. Any more questions from the judges?
Yeah, is this global? Is this global data, UK data? How's it broken down?
So the festival data that we pulled was UK focused, just because we wanted to have a bit of more of a controlled approach towards that. The actual data for the A&R and for the top 100 was global data, and we wanted to use this as a starting block to maybe start a discussion about what the purpose of a festival is, and as like kind of technology changes and stuff like that, and accessibility changes and global patterns emerge, you know, is it going to be a case where there are people globally that are performing with the numbers needed to be booked for festivals, and are we going to see festivals happening in spaces like Roblox or Fortnite or whatever? So